Hello, loves. Hello, hello. Hills here from the Blue Flame. Welcome to the other side of the eclipse wormhole. Welcome to Mercury moving forward again, and welcome to Neptune in Aries. A lot has happened since the last time we spoke here on the YouTube. The members portal has moved over to Circle. We actually have an open house going on right now. If you want to come check it out, link below. Today we're going to talk about a very Arcturian Libra full moon. This Libra full moon, the way that it keeps coming through for me and that I'm called to share in this moment is that this full moon is all about transforming relationship. Libra is already the sign of connection, of relationship. The sun during this full moon is going to be exactly conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer in Aries. We're going to talk a lot about that today. And the moon is going to be exactly conjunct Arcturus, basically, within a couple of seconds anyways. And there's another energy that's there playing with Arcturus and the full moon, which is the rose dragons. The rose dragons are an energy of empowered compassion and detached service. They're really potent medicine, wisdom holders for coming into greater relationship with self and the capacity to hold space more fully when we are unified, secure with our self-image. This moon is so much about self-image. So let's talk a little bit about this moon and some of the players involved with it. The moon will be at 23 degrees of Libra. Arcturus is at 24, Rose Dragon's 25. So this is nice and tight here, right? The sun is at 23 of Aries, and Chiron is also now Aries is over at 25 of Aries. So we've got some real chaos magic going on in this lunation as well. We also have forming a T-square Mars at 27 of Cancer, just taking those final turns before hitting into Leo again and then finally emerging from shadow. The full moon itself is peaking on Saturday, the 12th of April at 5:22 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Now, just a few hours later, Venus is going to turn around and begin moving forward again. During this lunation, Venus will already have hit that final point, that final degree back into Pisces that Venus is going to hit, and then the next day start to turn around, moving forward again. On the 7th of April, yesterday by the recording of this update, Mercury hit its final resting point in retrograde Pisces and has started to move forward once again as well. Now, I'm going to invite us into the energy of this lunation with Venus and Mercury, the North Node and Saturn. We have a massive stellium conjunction here going on. We have Venus at the 24, which is where Venus turns around. We have Saturn at the 25. We have the North Nodes, the true at 27, the mean at 26, and then Mercury at 28. Neptune is now in Aries. So Neptune is not part of this particular stellium party anymore. feel into, if you will, take a moment and feel into what the energy of Venus represents, especially now coming far enough away from the sun that Venus is breaching the horizon as a morning star once again. We get up very, very early in the morning, and just in that blue hour before the sun rises, that star, that bright light twinkling, will be visible for us. Now, of course, that's very early in the morning, but if you are so inclined, it's powerful medicine to work with that emerging light of Venus in those pre-dawn hours. Venus, as an emerging morning star, is bringing us into an awareness of our emergence. Now, being still in retrograde motion, there's some fine tuning. And even through the rest of April, as Venus moves through the shadow of this retrograde, we'll be doing that fine tuning of how we are going to show up in the world. Venus in Aries is where she will be when she comes out of shadow, how we are called to show up in the world and what we attract to ourselves from that space. So here we have Venus conjunct Saturn, our foundations and our structures, Saturn getting ready for its turn in Aries as well, which is coming in May. So we have all this shifting, turning, churning energy, moving forward, but still connecting to the internal, still connecting to the internal, the eternal. The North Node in Pisces, we've talked a lot about this North Node in Pisces, where we're going to be for the rest of the year into next. That relationship to, we could think of this, the Buddhist principle of life is suffering. The understanding that as we are embodied, as we are in physical form, we will experience pain, accepting that the pain will exist. And rather than, I had a conversation earlier today, and it's coming in right now to share as we're experiencing this North Node in Pisces energy in conjunction with Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. It's not that nothing bad will ever happen, but will we actually consider it bad, or through our understanding of the root, the reason of the occurrence, the pain or the bad that we associate with this event, will cease to have the same impact. We change our relationship to the situation. When we understand why something has happened, it's much easier for us, generally as humans, right? It's much easier for us to move into acceptance and out of rigidity. We come more into alignment with what we are experiencing. So all of this energy here in Pisces, Venus, Saturn, the North Node, Mercury, now moving forward once again, getting ready for, in a few days, the reunion with Neptune at 0 of Aries. How are we talking to ourselves? What are the stories we're telling? That's Mercury, right? We've been exploring these concepts as Mercury's been retrograde through Aries and back into Pisces. We are asking ourselves, who am I in this instance? Who am I in this moment? Who am I with that person compared to who I am with that person? Is it true for me to change who I am based on who I'm talking to? This is all part of the energy of this Libra full moon. We are gifting ourselves with a deeper understanding and an acceptance of who we are innately, and being asked to show up in that way more and more and more of the time. So this question that came through, right? Who am I in this relationship? Who am I in this relationship? Where am I different in different relationships? This could be a really good journaling exercise if you're into that sort of thing for this Libra full moon, because part of what we're getting at is whether or not changing our spots actually serves, or if it is a coping mechanism. And here we come to that Sun conjunct Chiron in Aries. Chiron in Aries is connected to a deep wound. So if you have Chiron in Aries, this is you, this is me. I'm getting ready in a couple months to go into my Chiron return, in fact. Chiron in Aries has a deep wound that is connected to a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment. Those of us who have Chiron in Aries, especially if it's a really strong one, mine is conjunct Mars and Andromeda Galaxy, it's pretty strong. We can feel like it is imperative that we present as the person that those that are around us want us to be, so that we are not rejected, so that we are not neglected, so that we are not abandoned, so that we make ourselves into the thing that that person says that they need. Now, if you do that, then what happens? You start to contort yourself, to twist yourself, to make yourself smaller. And eventually, something's got to give. And you will start to resent or go into other states of anger, dissociation. You're in pain because you're not allowing yourself to be seen fully. You construct all these barriers around yourself. The place that I've really been playing with this particular full moon, with this Sun conjunct Chiron, and we've got some Mars energy too, right? Mars in Cancer. Where do I belong? Who am I? Mars rules Aries. Who am I? Who am I? It is our drive and our purposes. It is that part of us that says, I am here. So if you are squaring, I am here with, but I'm afraid that if I am here, I'm going to be rejected. Then we have the moon across the way, shining a bright light, saying, but can you feel how that relationship was not for you because it was codependent? Now, this is the place that I have really been playing, right? What is codependency in relationship? And do we know how in our current experience of relationships? Do we know how to be in relationship that is not codependent? The way that this was coming through and the way that it started to tickle in for me, I'll share, is the actor Val Kilmer died recently. And Mike and I were like, we should watch one of his movies. Which one? And I was like, oh, we have to watch The Doors, which is the movie about the band The Doors, Jim Morrison. And I was watching this movie and I was looking at Jim's relationship with his partner Pam and with his other partner Patricia, and watching this and feeling the pain in my soul as I watched it. And then I woke up the next morning in a meditation on codependence and how these relationships were so codependent. And then I started to feel how so many of the templates for romantic relationship that we have from popular culture are examples of codependency in relationship, down to Romeo and Juliet, to songs like I Can't Live If Living Is Without You. I don't think there's a better codependent anthem than that. There probably is, but that one's really loud. And it actually came on that self same day when I woke up into that meditation. But can you feel how the rom-coms, the graphic novels, the fantasy romance novels, the plays, the songs, all of these cultural touchstones for us as a society are templating codependence in relationship. And sometimes our relationship doesn't present in the typical codependent way, as in one is always the quote unquote submissive and the other is always the quote unquote dominatrix, right? It is not always one is the giver and one is the taker. Sometimes these roles mutate, right? And in certain instances, this person is always giving and this person is always taking. And then in another instance, this person is always taking and this person is always giving. And then we start to think, because there is that movement, that we have moved out of codependency into interdependency. However, the question becomes, have I contorted myself in this instance? Have I asked myself to change fundamentally who I am in order to allow this person to give or take in that instance? Or have I stayed true? This is I am true in this moment, and I'm giving this thing to this person. Can you feel the difference? It's not, let me just take a piece of my rib and give it to you. You need that. I'll be fine without it. I'll be fine without it. It's, oh, I have a little bit of an extra piece here. I see you need some. I don't actually need this here. It's different. One of the things that we go through in order to get from codependence in relationship to interdependence in relationship is a necessary state of go it aloneness, right? You go through in trauma healing, right? We go from not acknowledging the trauma to acknowledging the trauma into victim mode, into releasing of victim mentality and coming into a survivor mentality into an actual acceptance of an experience. This is a similar frequency. We release, we accept, we come into awareness first and foremost. We come into awareness that we are changing ourselves in order to stay in a relationship. Then when we see it, we say, okay, well, why am I doing that? How am I doing that? And then start to unravel. And like that victim survivor in trauma recovery, in codependent recovery, we go from releasing unhealthy patterns to self-sufficiency. I can do this all by myself. And then start to feel all of the things, all of the places where we actually can't do it all by ourselves. Where it is not true for us to be everything for ourselves. We are not seeking completion outside of ourselves. We're understanding that we are whole sovereign beings, but that there are things outside of ourselves that we need. If we were completely self-sufficient beings, we wouldn't need food or water, right? So, can you feel how much energy is in the current around our relationships during this lunation? And of course, a full moon is bright. It is a spotlight. So there is a very good chance that if it has not already started to happen, it is going to be happening over the course of this cycle, that you are going to become abundantly aware of those places, and it's going to become quite uncomfortable for you to stay in relationships where you have to shrink yourself, where you are only in them because you fear being by yourself, where you fear that you will be abandoned if you speak your truth. If you share all of you, that you will be shunned aside, shunted, shunned, exiled. And to accept those fears. Oh, and the pain. There's that North Node in Pisces once again. Accept that pain because it's little deaths. Sometimes we call them ego deaths. They are little deaths. Deaths of old ways of being in the world. Deaths of old relationships. Cycling out of old constructs. And as we're moving into so much new, as we're transforming so much energy this year with Neptune now in Aries, Saturn getting ready to move into Aries, the nodes have shifted. Uranus is going to move into Gemini. Jupiter is going to move into Cancer. All these planets just really moving us into the new cycle. There is a lot of dead skin to be sloughed off. And this is a mantra that came through earlier today in one of my meditations that I heard should be shared in case it serves for you. The way that I found myself called to this particular practice was with the burning of Palo Santo. Feel what's true for you. It also might be slightly different words, right? For me, it was the burning of Palo Santo, and I felt myself starting to place the smoke around each of my limbs, around my body. And as I rolled the smoke through, the words, and let anything that is connected here be sloughed off like so much dead skin. And then at the very end, after I had gone through my entire body in this way, and let all that which is connected that no longer serves be carried away on the wind. We have a Libra air sign full moon to play with. So this is also part of something else that we have been talking about for the entirety of that eclipse wormhole, which is a yod that's been formed with Arcturus, Uranus, and Saturn. Now, everything has been culminating, right? We have been working with that energy of soul contracts, of karmic cycles shifting, transforming into dharmic expressions, right? Arcturus, that way station, that place of creating incarnation journeys and life reviews, a portal, a nexus point into the Akashic records. Can you feel how everything that we have been working with along this yod with Saturn and Uranus pointing at Arcturus has been building to this point when Uranus across in conjunctly to Arcturus now meets also with the full moon and the rose dragons, as Saturn in sextile to Uranus, that gifting bridge, that little bridge that helps us connect more fully to our gifts, now has Venus, the ruler of Libra, relationships, connections, manifestation, magnetism, the North Node in Pisces, our destiny line, our accepting of our true spiritual nature, our true nature as a soul having a human experience. And Mercury, the messenger, now turned direct once again. We have all this stellium energy pointing at the moon, Arcturus, and the rose dragons in conjunctly, while the moon, Arcturus, and the rose dragons sit across the wheel from the sun and Chiron. I would be remiss to point out that that T-square between Mars, the sun and Chiron, and the moon and Arcturus is also trine to our Pisces stellium. So we're really, really pushing the limits of how our emotional bodies, how our emotionality, how our blood flows, and the relationship between our emotions and our thought patterns. Here I'm invited to share a brief place of play. Our heart and our mind connect via a torus field, yes. There's a massive electromagnetic field of energy that emerges from and surrounds our hearts, and a massive electromagnetic field of energy that emerges from and surrounds our minds. The heart one is a bit bigger than the mind. In between these places, we have something called our amygdala and our vagus nerve, right there at our center of expression, right? Just behind. This is also where the causal chakra is and the Venus point. The vagus nerve is the hub point of our entire digestive central nervous system. Our amygdala holds our fear receptors. The amygdala and vagus together are how we process fear and trauma. So when people are called to ketamine or psilocybin or other psychedelia, MDMA, for trauma recovery, trauma release, these all go straight to this amygdala and vagus nerve center. This is why it works, because it helps break down the barriers in this area. Working with meditation in this area can be really, really, really helpful as far as bringing the emotional and mental planes into a state of coherence. Sometimes the language of our heart and the language of our mind are different. They're at different frequencies, at different cadences. The goal, I don't know if I like that word, but it's the one that's coming in right now, so we're gonna run with it. The aim of this practice is to bring them into a state of equalization. I'm going to ask you to notice something about what just happened there with my hands, which is I didn't bring this down and this up. This stayed. I brought this up to meet it. Equalization is bringing everything up to the highest frequency available to everything. So when we equalize, we bring everything up to its highest expression. So if we are in a state of clenched fist fear, which can sometimes express as a migraine even, or like heartburn, really intense, right? If we're in a clenched state of fear, the first place, the first port of call is breathing into our hearts and into our vagus amygdala. Allowing soothing, feel the air come through your sinuses, down through this area, your brainstem, where your vagus nerve and your amygdala and your Venus point all are. Feel it traveling down your throat and into your heart, and allow the exhale to unclog anything from that. And you may really need to push that exhale out. Really let it come out. Let me feel. I have, like I said, we've moved over to Circle now over at the members portal, and I have some really good meditations, some guided meditations and things like that in that space. If you are called, there is going to be a link below, and I have an open house, meaning that the entirety of the portal is available right now for you to explore. For the next couple of days, the doors of the inner sanctum are going to close just before the full moon. So you've got a couple of days here to like really come in and play around with what's there, and then feel if it's true for you to stay or if you're called to go elsewhere. Let me feel if there's anyone else that wants to speak before. There is a video that came through, an energy update here on the YouTube, where with the energy of a Mercury retrograde, we talked about twin flames. And I'm going to end cap this video with that because it's been pretty loud that sitting or resitting that in this moment with this lunation could really serve. So there's that. And I think that's where we end. So much and many loves to you. Please do come over to Circle and check everything out. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the bell for the notifications. Leave me a comment. How is this showing up for you? What is it hitting in your relationship axis? How are you feeling this energy is moving through? And yes, as always, in the always, so much and many loves from the dimensions of the all and beyond the beyond. Thank you.